recognize this system by color or symbolism. For some, maybe sound, but few have explored it in its full multidimensional depth. And the chakras, if you're not familiar, are defined as those swirling, vibrant centers along the spine. And they're not just metaphors, my friends. They're actually bioenergetic intelligence. So bio, I don't know why I'm stumbling over that word so hard, but bioenergetics is the study of energy flow and transformation within living organisms and their environment, particularly focusing on how cells produce, store, and use energy. But it's also starting to be a science that is measuring other energetics within our being. So I'm very excited to dive into this topic with you all. I am going to be giving a broader view and focusing predominantly on the 7 chakras that are most often discussed, and touching on some other lineages and some lineages and their perspectives, and briefly tapping into the energy systems and chakras that are found outside of those main 7, which are within the column of the spine. So excited to be here to dive into that. But before we continue into unpacking what the chakras really are, I would love to present you with a few announcements. The first being that on August 17th, we will be hosting a Jaguar Light Wand Low 5 MEO ceremony that is going to be hosted from a location in Tucson, Arizona. And of course, we'll be hosting it virtually as well. Those attending in person and virtual have been giving us really great feedback on their experiences working with Low 5 and being within the ceremony space, whether it being a virtually held space for them or those who have joined us in person. So would love to extend that invitation to you all. Note that you do not have to work with the sacrament in order to join in the ceremony with us. If you want to learn more about the ceremony, what it includes, more about the Jaguar Light Wand, you can see the video description below. And there's a link specifically for the Jaguar Light Wand ceremony, or you can go to thesacredsynthesis.com and go under the events tab and you'll see it there. What else is happening? So next week's conclave will be focusing on how to work with our sacraments. And this is specifically tapping into our main sacrament, silomethoxin, and then the Jaguar Light Wand, which is low 5 MEO, and the Unity Mist, which is also low 5 MEO. Those second 2 have different timings and different ways in which you can work with them. And we're really going to dive into suggested protocols and share some really exciting news in regards to the sacraments that a lot of the membership has been asking for, and then a fun new thing that we've put together for you all. So tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. Central to the Medicine Conclave to learn about how to work with our sacraments in more detail, and for that big announcement, which we can't wait to share. Anything else? I think that, and then also if you've missed any part of the limited Toad Talk series, I want to invite you all into that. We've now hosted several episodes and would love for you to tune into this real-time reporting of sorts, as co-founder Ian has been on the ground in Arizona, exploring what's happening with the toads, checking out the ecological environments, what's going on in the monsoon season. So it's a really fun, limited chat that I think it could provide value if you have curiosity around the toads, curiosity around the medicine itself, and just in general, a lover of nature. It might tickle your fancy. So please tune into those Toad Talks. We have another one coming up on August 7th or 8th, I believe. So tune on in. What else is going on? So that's it at this moment in time. And I would love now to dive into what we're here for right now. And we're really going to look at how the chakras interface with the meridian systems that are traditionally known in Chinese medicine, how they reflect our emotional tone and govern our organ health, and how modern science is beginning to echo what ancient systems have long known. And I'm super excited to be here. So I want to talk with you guys about my lens, which is one that blends somatic wisdom, spiritual inquiry, and some reverence around working within my own energetic system And my background includes working with people in their energetic and emotional spaces, most commonly focusing on intimacy with oneself and intimacy with others. And when I say intimacy, not necessarily referencing sexual intimacy, but just that closeness that we can have, that deeper understanding of oneself, one's own field, one's own body, and how it's operating, and then being able to connect in with others. Also, here at the church, I am working with Ben to host these beautiful ceremonies, and I'm just a lover of the energy systems and the various lineages through which we can look at ourselves and our connection, our bioenergetic connection with everything around us. And while today is going to be focusing, as I said before, primarily on the 7 chakras that are most commonly taught in the West, it's important to acknowledge that many traditions recognize additional centers, energy centers above the crown, below the root, and throughout the hands, the feet, and your auric field, which is a bit broader than just the human body. These extended chakras really speak to more transpersonal consciousness, ancestral memory, and multidimensional embodiment. So know that what we cover today is just really a thin layer of what's happening within with the energy field and the language of energy. So buckle on up. Let's get in there. So before diving into that deeper exploration and explanation of the 7 primary chakras, I want to share with you a little bit about those some other commonly referenced chakras outside of the 7. And the first being the Earth Star chakra, which is located about 12 to 18 inches beneath the feet. So you can imagine you're walking around and it's just kind of hanging out in that space beneath you. And this is really something that connects you with your ancestral roots, the collective unconscious, and Earth's wisdom. It's really associated with grounding beyond the individual self and more into the planetary grid. So if you're someone who pays attention to the grid systems throughout the world, or you watch anything on Gaia, there's some really beautiful chats about the planetary grid. If you are really into grounding, this might be a part of that experience and bringing us into resonance with the pulse, the frequency that is our planet. The next is the soul star chakra, which is floating about 6 to 12 inches above the crown. And this is said to link us to our soul purpose, divine insight, and cosmic memory. So it's really often activated in really deep moments of meditation, ceremony, or if you are someone who channels or get these divine messages coming through, it's said to many times come from the soul star chakra. And then ones that I feel quite often are in my hands. If you are any type of energy worker or just someone who's tuned in to your body, you might feel these chakras quite a bit. They're located in the hands and the feet, and they're considered minor chakras that allow us to give and receive energetic information through touch and contact. So if you're a healer of some sort, a body worker, many times you might get intuitive information that comes through the touch of things, walking through a space, things like that. And then lastly, the higher transpersonal chakra. So some systems include chakras above the soul star that represent access to unity consciousness, the Akashic field of memory, galactic awareness. So just know that those are some that are more broad than what we're feeling in our main system, which aligns with our spine. And fun to touch in, but for sake of tonight's conversation and giving more introductory information, I want to just stick with those 7 most commonly referred chakras. So what are the chakras? So the word chakra comes from Sanskrit and it translates to wheel or disc. And in some yogic traditions, these are seen as spinning centers of energy or prana that lie along the spine from the base of the body, the spine, to the crown of the head. And traditionally, there's 7 main chakras. Each of them are associated with different psycho-emotional state and physiological regions. So many times people say they visualize a specific color or spectrum of colors and these vortices. And some say those are just symbolic colors. There's a lot of debate in the New Age space of if color is even associated with them. But in my experience, I do think that we all have various ways in which we can tap into our energetic field and our way of seeing. And the way one person may interpret their experience may be a bit different than someone else's. And I think through the imaginary field, the more that we can envision or imagine something, the more likely we are able to tap into its energetic truth. So there might be something to through those colors, but you've probably seen like a color spectrum of like a yogi person sitting there, and then up the middle of their spine, you're seeing those different colors. And then also within those colors, many times there's different imagery or symbology that taps into what these vortices are for. And what they actually are energy fields. And at these energy fields, there are intersecting points where subtle energy influences physical function and emotional processing. So they're not necessarily physical objects like organs, but they do correspond with major nerve plexes and the endocrine glands. So in this way, it's like mirrored to the physical body. And what's a good example? So for example, the throat chakra, which I'm actually having a little bit of difficulty with my voice right now for some reason. The throat chakra aligns with the thyroid gland and the vocal cords, while the solar plexus connects to the pancreas and the digestive system. So if you're having issues with being able to speak or not speak your truth potentially, you might have a misalignment or some stickiness or low energy within the throat chakra, or your digestive system is off. There could be something happening within your willpower, right? If you don't have strong Agni, strong fire, you may not have a lot of willpower. You may have really slow digestion, or you might have too high of digestion, too much fire in your system, which is more so playing into the Ayurvedic field. But this is kind of how things really dance with each other. So each of the chakras vibrate at a different frequency, and they, like I said, they govern a unique psycho-emotional territory. So we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but the heart chakra resonates with love, compassion, and also grief. It is connected with the cardiac plexus and the thymus gland, which helps with your immunity. So many times if you're heartbroken, you start to get sick, right? So people can die from heartbreak. So like I said before in the introduction, I said that science is starting to catch up with what's happening here and what the ancients have been talking about from a myriad of perspectives for a very long time. And what's happening here is the vagus nerve, which connects the brain, the heart, and the gut. It functions very much like the energetic communication line and is sort of an inner meridian. And quantum physics also speaks of coherence, resonance, and the measurable vibrational signatures of the human biofield. So these concepts align with how energy flows or can become blocked in these centers. So when someone says the chakra is blocked, it may actually be describing an interruption in the communication, like the electronic communication between emotional processing, your energetic flow, and perhaps your physiological function. So my personal belief is most of us are really talking about the same systems, the same things. We're just using different languaging of understanding to explain it. And I love dancing in that space of like, ooh, well, we can talk about it from a physiological perspective and see what's happening. But then when I talk about it energetically and I do this energetic practice, somehow that impacts my physiological and my emotional state. So all is interwoven. So I like to approach my chakra health, my physical health, my emotional health from a myriad of approaches all at once so they can lift all together. But maybe you focus in one particular lineage. And I just want to say, like, today's talk is not really to be dogmatic or to preach a particular perspective, but just to share information and share the enthusiasm of understanding this system a little more deeply. If you haven't explored what the chakras are. And for those who are deeply studied in chakras, you will probably listen to this like, oh yeah, I know all of that, which is equally amazing as well. So just encouraging you all to explore chakra by chakra and explanation. And we're going to start at the lower three chakras, which are associated with like the earth-based life, with safety, and security, the nervous system. And we're going to start first at the base, which is known as the Muladhara, the root chakra. Its location is at the base of the spine. The organs that are associated with it are the colon and adrenals. Also, the bones, like the framework of our body, is associated with the root. The emotional connection is safety and survival versus fear and anxiety. Definitely. And then the meridians, which the meridians are in Chinese medicine, or the nadis, which is more Ayurvedic and in this world of like India, they are energetic lines that move through the system. And I mean, they kind of mirror the nervous system. But within the meridians, this is connected to the kidneys and ancestral fear associated with the kidneys, and then the bladder. And then within kind of the scientific study of the Muladhara system, even if they don't call it that, it is your cortisol levels and what is happening with your sympathetic nervous system. If you're feeling a little bit ungrounded or unsafe, stressed, fearful, right? Some ways that you can ground down into your root and start to balance out that chakra is through grounding breath, like really deep, like nourishing breathing. You can go walk outside, go lay on the ground, stand on a grounding mat, and do some safety anchoring touch. So you might be at your desk and have a stressful moment, and you can, or if you're spiraling out and you don't feel really safe, you can grab onto something and look at it and explore the, right now I have a tissue box here, explore the textures of that particular thing, and it'll bring you back into a grounded state, of course. And if you can't get out of that spiral, you might need to organize yourself around if you are physically safe. Many times, if we don't feel physically safe or emotionally safe, and we can't change that and immediately, things start to spiral down and down and down and getting worse. But if you can move out of that space, that environment where you don't feel safe, your nervous system and your sense of safety and survival will start to shift, and you'll have a much more calm and grounded space. Something else to note is if you've lived in a state where you have your protectors, your energetic protectors up often, you might go into safe environments and feel super, super unsafe. And that's where grounding down into your breath, grounding down into the textures of those around you and the things around you will help you realize, oh, I am safe here, and continue into a really beautiful, safe environment and enjoying it. The next chakra is Svadhisthana, which is your sacral chakra. So think about your sacrum. Its location is within the pelvis. The organs are your reproductive organs. And here we get to tap into pleasure and creativity, but also guilt and shame. Shame is something that is a very potent, nasty way in which most people around the world have been controlled. And I believe a lot of the world right now is moving out of the shame. And once we can heal our connection to shame and what's been placed on us as shameful, we can really start to elevate and vibrate from a beautiful place from our sacral chakra. Many times people say, oh, if someone's hypersexual, that they have an overactive sacral chakra. That's not necessarily my belief system. You do have elevated levels or decreased levels in the chakra systems that might need rebalancing, but that's not, in my opinion, what's truly happening in that type of space. The meridians that go out and then connect into other organs, there's the liver meridian and the spleen, and this helps with emotional processing. So your liver can hold a lot of anger and stress, guilt, etc. So if you can do work to release some of those emotions, your sacral chakra will come into more of a balanced alignment. From a scientific perspective, dopamine, oxytocin, and the pelvic nerve plexus are associated with this region. And if you've ever done like a yin yoga, done like hip openers, you might have had deep emotional releases or a lot of anger come up, or frustration or tears, not knowing necessarily why. But that's because of this particular chakra and where it's located, and the storage of a lot of stressors within the hips. And you can also practice self-pleasure. You can self-pleasure both in like a non-sexual way of like touch or textures or fragrances, or just really exploring what feels good to you in a non-sexual way. Or you can bring in the sexual. And something that also helps in this space is fluid movement, just like finding ease. If you're noticing that you're really like choppy in your movements, there might mean there's an opportunity to offer up to yourself more fluid, soft, gentle moves and ease, and filing away those like choppy things. The next chakra is the solar plexus, formerly known as the Manipura. And this is located just above your navel, above your belly button. And the organs it's associated with is the liver, the stomach, and the pancreas. And this is a place of power, clarity. Also, it can be a place of like indecision, rage, and some shame can reside here as well. And it's associated with the liver and gallbladder. And the kind of the second brain of your gut and your gut microbiome. To help activate this region, you can do breath of fire. So that's a breathing technique where you pump your abdomen, like you take a big inhale, and then you do exhale. And you really, on your exhale, pump your abdomen in, like you squeeze your abdomen in. And by doing that, you automatically take in a big breath of oxygen, and then you force the exhale, and you start to build fire within your solar plexus region and within your body. It's very, 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 very purifying. You can also increase your power in this center by setting boundaries. Most of us have soft boundaries, or boundaries that we don't enforce. And once you start to do some healing, you notice that you start to set strong boundaries. And that's how you know when someone has a strong solar plexus. For the physical body, like really beautiful digestive teas, there's a lot of different Ayurvedic herbs out there that you can drink that will help with your gut microbiome and your digestive system. The next chakra is the Anahata, which is your heart. Located where you think it is, in the center of the chest. And here we think about the heart, the lungs, the thymus gland, and the emotions can be love, compassion, or grief, resentment, right? Deep sadness can live here. I recently did an energy healing on someone I love very much, and she had said, I didn't know what was going on into this space, or what to expect. I just asked to be a channel of healing and love and just be properly guided. And when we had finished the session, this beautiful lady said to me that she had such pain in her chest, and she hadn't been able to breathe for such a long time. And after that healing, during that healing, I should say, all of it released, and she felt like the pain in her heart was gone, and the air had returned to her lungs. And that's all from releasing densities from the chest region, from this heart chakra. And from a meridian standpoint, we're connecting again to the lungs and the heart. And in the scientific lens, we're connecting to heart coherence. So if you've ever heard of the Heart Math Institute, they have done beautiful studies on the electromagnetic pulse, right, of the heart. It's an electrical system, and how heart rate variability can change based on what stressors in our lives. And this is also a beautiful place for oxytocin, right, that love chemical. So if you're feeling heartbreak, if you're feeling grief, you're having breathing problems, you're having, like I experienced for a long time, I was deeply heartbroken and in states of anxiety for a long time in my life. And I physically felt many times like I was having a heart attack, and maybe had, right? So there's ways to bring the heart into balance. You can do this through heart coherence meditation, through loving touch, by allowing yourself to go through grief. Like if you have grief that you're feeling and you're not allowing yourself to properly process it, you might have a bit of that heart incoherence. And you can grieve literally anything. Like I just recently moved into a new home. It's much more spacious and amazing and exactly where I wanted to move. But there was still a grieving process that I had to go through and saying goodbye to my old home and all that that meant. So even something as simple as moving to a new place can cause some heart incoherence if we don't give ourselves that spaciousness to close that chapter and feel it and then welcome in something new. Another thing I just want to tap into is horses. Horses have been studied through the Heart Math Institute to have the same heart coherence as human beings. So maybe go out and do some horse therapy to help with that heart chakra. And then the next one, the Vishuddha, which is your throat chakra. It's located right here in the middle, in the throat, front, back. And the organs associated with this are your thyroid, the tissue of your neck, your vocal cords, right? And the emotions are truth, expression, clarity versus suppression, and lies. Whether you're lying just to yourself or projecting those lies outward to others. And it's important to know that from a scientific perspective, you can do vagal nerve toning and sound therapy, like new making sounds, and this will help bring you into a more calm, relaxed, clear space. So some practices for working with the throat chakra can be vocal toning, which I touched on already, humming, and also practicing having honest, loving conversations. And that's something I want to touch on. Like as we work from the base, the root chakra, all the way up to the heart, to the throat, like if we can ground down into the earth, if we can find security within, the base of our spine and ground our breath and then move into the pelvis and find that we are in a place of creativity and pleasure, that moves us into a space of clarity and power, not power over others, but power in our power in what of oneself, right? That then moves us up into higher levels of existing. And then if we can get the heart open and expanded, then whatever is coming from our throat, we will know that we're expressing from this place of loving truth. And even though others might respond poorly or cast judgment or not resonate with the truth that we're sharing, right, that is just exuding from us, we can know that we're grounded in the truth, knowing we're grounding to Mother Earth, and that we are truly coming from a space of honesty. And for my own journey, there was a deep connection between my throat chakra and my sacral chakra. And that's very common with women. Like as we heal in our reproductive organs, our yoni space, or we heal our throat chakra, it opens the other. And sometimes you can do work on both at the same time, and it's like quantum leaping in your healing space. And because many times we're not encouraged to speak the truth. And it's I think one of the most empowering things that I've done for myself is to stand in truth and make the promise, the oath of truth, not just with, myself, but with others as well, even when it's very difficult. So moving on and up and on, we're going to the Ajna chakra. So this is your third eye. So you can imagine like in the center of your brain. And the organs associated with this are the pituitary and the hypothalamus glands. If you've studied any bit of Joe Dispenza, he talks about the pituitary glands and the little crystals that are there and how to pull the cerebrospinal fluid up the spine when you squeeze up on your perineum and do like an abdominal lock, and that pushes the fluid up. And then what that does is applies pressure to those glands and breaks up the crystals there that might have become calcified. So the third eye is not necessarily like an eye, but it is something that is once cleared, once you come into a state of more like resonance with yourself, you start to get clarity, a heightened sense of intuition. You're hearing your intuition much more clearly, and it can be less likely that you are in a state of confusion or illusion, right? Like you're not being confused by yourself or by the energy and projection of others. And This is a governing vessel within that system. From a scientific physiological perspective, this region is in charge of your circadian rhythm and your melatonin. Andrew Huberman did a really great episode a few years ago now, talking about the importance of getting light on our eyes, on our physical eyeballs, on the third eye, and what that actually does for our system. And he touches on these particular glands in this region. So some ways that you can work with your pituitary gland is through gazing. So what that is you would place a candle like where the flame is, about an arm's distance away from you, and then you want the candle flame to be right at eye distance. So you're not going to be looking down at it or up at it. You want it to be completely like in that line of sight for you. And you can gaze at it for 10 to 15 minutes, and this will help your sense of intuition, your clarity come. And what I think is really fun is when doing candle gazing, you can notice that as your mind becomes more clear and less confused and more focused on that flame, the flame will become more and more and more and more still. And if you do this practice, I would love to know what your experience is and if you're having that same experience. And then I've noticed, like, as my brain and my energy starts to like wobble a little bit, the flame starts to flicker again. So it's a really great way to measure where you're at within your field. You can also do visualization techniques, dream journaling, or some of those beautiful meditations like what Dr. Joe Dispenza offers. Those are really helpful as well. What else? And I think daydreaming, like giving yourself the time and space to just go lay on the ground perhaps, or lay in your bed in the morning, which is what I like to do, and just allow some softness, some quietness in your day to just be there in that state of daydreaming and inviting in your intuition to speak to you, into your higher self, right? Your subconscious, to share beautiful truths with you and guidance. You'll be pretty surprised at what comes through. And then lastly, the crown chakra, Saraswara. So the top of the head up here is where it's located. And again, this is touching on the pineal gland, and it's about unity and bliss versus disconnection and depression. So those beautiful glands that we activate, the pituitary, hypothalamus, pineal gland, really can bring us into a higher wave state. Like, think about the different waves. There's like theta, gamma, beta, etc. So it'll move us into these more like meditative, calm states. And ways that we want to activate the crown chakra is through silent sitting, through mantra chanting, maybe working with different sacraments, right? So each sacrament has different energetics around it. The ones that we provide to the beautiful members of our church to work with are very energetic. And what I love about that is that it's connected very much to the chakra system. We are energetic beings. Like, everything around us we now know is energy. And if we can clear out our energetic field, be more in a flowy state rather than an erratic state, we can really tap into higher levels of ourselves and performance and all of that. That's why I love working with these sacraments specifically, because they really can quickly clear out the energetic gunk that we've been holding on to. And that might be something that would entice you to join us for our light wand ceremonies that we're hosting every month, to just see what comes forward, what releases from your system, what like calves off. Like, imagine yourself almost like a glacier, right? Or like a beautiful crystal, and around this crystal is all these different like ice lumps that have affixed to you. And as you start to soften the exterior through your different energetic practices or working with some of these sacraments, they calve off and they fall into the ocean, right? And start to reveal more of like this beautiful, pristine, crystalline, however you want to envision yourself beneath the ice. So yeah, that's just a really brief touch on the main chakras that are studied and talked about, especially here in the West. Keeping in mind, this is a macro view, right? And I encourage you to dive deeper into what this means for you in your everyday life, and it resonates with you. There's so many wonderful practitioners and yoga schools and trainings out there that tap deeper into these particular systems. So one practice that I did for quite a long time was tapping into what are they called? Seed syllables. So you can look these up for each of the 7 chakras, but they sound like lam, vam, ram, or like om. You know, a lot of us who practice yoga or meditation, we've heard om many times. And these seed syllables are very effective when chanted over and over and over again to move through the 7 chakras. So you would start at the base and move up, and you can see in an hour's practice of this a radical shift within your energetic system, your emotional state. So with that, I think we'll close out this conclave. Again, just wanting to encourage you that there are so many ways to work with your energetic being. You are your own healer. You and your intuition are the most wise on what works best for you. And I just want to ask you to consider, if you're working with your chakra systems, to feel into what feels most alive for you right now. Like, which of these locations feel the most active? And you can scan your body. You can start at your root and scan there and see, like, some people do the color visualization of like red. Is what the color of that red is, what's appearing for you. And when you see that color, feel that texture, hear a sound, or whatever it might be, what is that saying to you? And like, can you send love to that region? And then can you take that red and make it fill up your entire body, you know, permeating your entire body with that color red. And then moving into your next chakra, right? And feeling into like the orange color and doing the same thing, like just seeing what it is, offering loving healing and enjoyment and compassion, and then just moving that color up the body. And then just keep going with the color or the energy that you want to associate with those chakras, and move them and allow them to fill your entire field, your physical field and your auric field, and then make it all the way up to the crown chakra, right? And I won't go through all the colors right now, but just know that there's so many ways to work with your systems. And for now, it's been an honor to be with you all, tuning into this particular conclave. As I stated at the beginning, next week I have a really fun announcement. I want to tease you all with it for a bit, but it's something that has been requested for membership for quite a long time, and we are excited to fulfill this request, and are excited to announce something else in next week's conclave, which will be back here, YouTube Live, at 7 p.m. Central. And Benjamin Moore will be here alongside me to dive into how to work with the sacraments of the Church of the Sacred Synthesis. And until next time, I love you. I appreciate you. If you guys want to tune in more with your own personal feedback, I invite you to fill out the survey in the video notes, show notes, and join us for the light wand ceremony on the 17th. Until next time, my friends.